Interintellects. My name is Christophe Perot. I'm a philosopher affiliated with Cambridge University and Paris 1 Panthéon-Sorbonne in Paris. I'm really excited to announce that I'm hosting a series on God and humanity. And this series is going to be a glorious exploration of a lot of complicated subjects, but those things which matter, in a sense, most to our hearts. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be God? And how do the two relate? In order to make sense of some of these grandiose questions, I'm inviting some legendary philosophers to join me in hosting this series, starting with Charles Taillefer, who's one of the preeminent philosophers of religion alive today, and who wrote the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy entry on philosophy of religion, as well as the entry on the afterlife, and whose introductions to the subject of philosophy of religion are required reading by students at Oxford doing philosophy and theology. So he's really a big deal and a wonderful host. But let me just give you a window into the sorts of versions of God and humanity relations that might exist. To give you a sense of this, I'll start with something atheistic. Feuerbach, a great German atheist who influenced Nietzsche and Marx, actually had a very cool argument for why God does not exist, but how it relates to humanity nonetheless as a concept. And what he said is the problem with God is that we gave over to God all the predicates which properly belong to humans. In other words, we conceived of the ideal of humanity and called it God. So we said that God was loving and powerful and caring and good and just. And then we left humanity with all the predicates that remained, all the negative predicates, weak, avarice, and so forth, all the things expressed in the concept of original sin. This was in an essay titled The Essence of Christianity. The problem with this for Feuerbach was that by attributing to God those things which were properly human, we became alienated from ourselves. In other words, when we did something bad, we said, oh, I've exposed who I really am to myself through the concept of original sin. And when we've done something good, we say, oh, God worked through me. And so this is a kind of atheistic take on the relationship between God and humanity that does not require a belief in God, but nonetheless suggests the tremendous value or importance or significance of that notion of God, a tradition which follows Nietzsche and Sartre and Camus, as you can see, because for Nietzsche, the death of God was a major risk presented a major risk of generating lots of nihilism. And for Sartre, in Being in Nothingness, he says the fundamental human project is to be God. And this is all from an atheistic tradition. So of course, to note, the Christian response to Feuerbach's critique of Christianity is, of course, a notion called imago Dei, the notion that humans are made in the image of God. So for Christians, the fact that God is good means we are good too. Now, I will not be uniquely sourcing. I mentioned the Western Christian tradition just now, but we will be exploring Islamic philosophy, Hindu philosophy, a variety of traditions with appropriate scholars guiding the whole conversation. And I will be carefully tending to the reading list, which will involve both ancient and significantly important texts, as well as contemporary cutting-edge philosophy of religion. So please, join me in the God and Humanity series. I want to see you there. Let's have a great conversation. Bye.